Hello, my name is Gary and I'm a traffic police officer, and I have been for many years. But what I want to tell you about today is the voluntary role that I perform within the traffic department, which is that of a family liaison officer, of which I've been a family liaison officer now for the last 12 years. And over that time, I've had to introduce myself to over 70, that's 70 separate families, and tell them that their loved ones have either been killed or seriously injured as a result of a road traffic collision. It was Christmas. I was on a night shift, driving around in the police car on my own, and in the early hours of the morning I received a call on the radio asking me to attend a serious injury road traffic collision. At 3:45 that morning, I arrived at the scene, and I try to get as much information from the scene as I possibly can, so that I'm in a position, hopefully, to be able to answer any questions that the family might have at a later date. So I could see straight away that the collision involved a Peugeot 206, that Peugeot had been in collision with a solid stone wall, that the width of the Peugeot had been reduced by half from the driver's side, that the front driver's wheel had snapped off the axle, that the exhaust had broken away from the car and was lying up the road. It was dark because it was a country road, there was no street lighting. It was dry, it was a clear night. The road surface was dry. I couldn't really understand why the collision had occurred. There was no obvious reason why it had happened. There didn't seem to be any other vehicles involved, just the Peugeot into the solid stone wall. I did a check on the registration number of that Peugeot, and as a result of that, I believed the driver of the car to be called Andrew. Now, Andrew was wearing his seatbelt at the time the collision happened, and unfortunately, Andrew was all on his own at the time the collision occurred as well, or that's the way it appeared. I also found out that a couple of people who'd been in a house nearby and had heard the collision take place, that they'd come out to see what was going on, and that these people had given CPR to Andrew for 10 minutes before the arrival of the emergency services. Andrew was taken away from the collision by land ambulance to the nearest accident and emergency department before I got there. And then I found out that at 3 a.m. that morning, in the resuscitation room at that hospital, Andrew was pronounced dead. 4:45 that morning, I arrived outside Andrew's home. And as you'd imagine, at that time, the house was in complete darkness. I pulled up outside the house, got out of the police car, and took that awful, dreaded walk from the car up to the front door. As I got to the front door, knocked on the door, and then waited. I saw the lights come on upstairs, and I heard the footsteps coming down the stairs. And the front door was opened by, as it turned out, Kevin, Andrew's dad, to be confronted with a police officer stood on his doorstep. I asked if I could come in because I had something to tell him. And as I walked through the house, my attention was drawn to all the Christmas decorations and the Christmas tree. A few minutes later, we were joined downstairs by Della, Andrew's mum, and Ian, Andrew's younger brother. And I told them that Andrew had been killed as a result of a road traffic collision, and this was met with tears, with shouting, with denial and with disbelief. Kevin went into a state of hyperventilating. They really didn't want to believe what they were hearing. All three of them needed to go to the hospital just for that confirmation, I think, that it was actually Andrew and not someone else. So I took all three of them there in the police car. And during that journey there was silence, there was tears, and there was anxious discussion, because although they really didn't want any other family to have to go through what they were then going through, they really didn't want it to be Andrew at the hospital either when they got there. At 6 a.m. that morning we arrived at the hospital, and as I always tried to do, I went into the room where Andrew was before the family, so that I can check on the injuries and then prepare the family for what they're about to see when they walk in there. So as I walked into the room, it was a cold, clinical looking room, as you'd expect in a hospital. And the only thing in there was the hospital bed with Andrew lying on it. And Andrew's body was completely covered, the only part visible being his face and his head. I went back out, held the door open, and allowed the family to go in. I knew straight away by what I heard coming out of that room that it was Andrew who was lying there on that hospital bed, without any question. Tests later showed that Andrew had no drugs and no alcohol in his system at the time the collision happened. Part of my role is to try and get to know who the person was, and I found out that Andrew was 21 years old, that he had a good job working at the South West Highways Department at the same depot as where his dad worked. He was looking forward to taking a further driving test at work, which would have meant more responsibility and therefore more money. And that he'd started going out with his 18-year-old girlfriend, Kylie, several weeks before. Things were looking fantastic for Andrew. Kevin had said that it was the happiest he'd seen Andrew in a long time, since he'd met Kylie. Della said that they were forever texting each other. As I said, it was Christmas time, and Andrew had been invited around to Kylie's home to meet her parents for the first time. And Andrew had mixed emotions about this, both excitement but also anxiousness, because he wanted to make that first good impression with her parents. At 6:30 on Boxing Day evening, Andrew said his goodbyes to his mum and his dad and his brother, got into his Peugeot and started his journey across to Kylie's home, a journey of about 30 minutes. Unknown by everyone, this would be the last time Andrew's parents and brother would see Andrew alive. Andrew arrived safely at Kylie's home, was warmly greeted by her parents, welcomed into the house, given a Christmas present, and the evening went extremely well. At the end of the evening, Andrew said his goodbyes, got back into his Peugeot, and started his return journey home. We have to assume that Andrew was in a really happy, buoyant mood while he was driving back because of the way the evening had gone. Kylie certainly thought so, and she really wanted to share her excitement and her joy with Andrew. So she sent Andrew a text message. Tests after the collision have led us to believe that Andrew opened that text message whilst he was driving, and that was the cause of this collision. How much of that text message Andrew actually read, we'll never know. And Kylie never received a reply to that text message. The first time Andrew's parents and Kylie's parents met each other was after Andrew was dead. Andrew's funeral was held on the 8th of January. The inquest into Andrew's death was held on the 27th of November, 11 months after the collision had happened, 11 months where the family and Kylie had to put their life on hold, unable to move on. Della, Ian and Kylie wanted to go and see the car at the pound. Kevin couldn't face going. While we were at the pound, Ian broke down in tears because he just couldn't believe what he was looking at. Christmas comes every year. Kevin, Della and Ian get a yearly reminder every Christmas of when I came round and told them that their son and their brother have been killed. They're suffering today and they will continue to suffer. And all of that is because of a loving, excitable text message. Please, if you're driving, do not use your mobile phone to make a call or receive a call or to send a text or receive a text. Please wait or pull over. Please help me, please help my colleagues, but more important than any of that, please save your family and your friends the suffering that Kevin, Della, Ian and Kylie have gone through and will have to continue to go through for the rest of their lives. I don't want to be coming knocking on your front door, telling your parents that you're dead and asking your parents to come to the mortuary with me to identify your body. Thank you for your time. Please take care.